You know what would make this world a better place? Another Pickleball podcast. Hey there, pickleballers. Welcome back to the PickleFit Podcast, the show that helps you get stronger, more mobile, and injury-proof so you can master the pickleball court. I'm your host, Coach Kevin. I'm a healthy aging expert, a certified personal trainer, and a nutrition coach. And each week, we'll dive into simple, actionable tips on strength training, mobility, and nutrition to level up your game and keep you playing at your best, no matter your age or level. So grab your paddle, lace up those sneakers, and let's get PickleFit. Hey folks, before we start today's episode, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by the PickleFit program, the ultimate fitness program designed specifically for those of us over 50 looking to step up our pickleball game. Are you ready to play harder, longer, and with more confidence on the court? If so, then PickleFit is just what you need. PickleFit is a 12-week workout program that focuses on building strength, increasing mobility, and dramatically reducing your risk of injury so you can master the sport without any setbacks. With customized workout plans available for both gym and home settings and video demonstrations for all exercises, PickleFit makes it easy to stay fit and active no matter your current fitness level. And here's the best part. As a listener to our podcast, you get lifetime access for only $29. Yes, you heard that right. Just visit mypicklefit.com to join a community of like-minded individuals who are turning back the clock on the court. Don't let age slow you down. Join PickleFit today and master the court. Just head over to mypicklefit.com. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on with today's show. Hey folks, Coach Kevin here. Welcome to episode 4 of the PickleFit Podcast. So here's what's up with me lately. I've been playing so much pickleball. Just these last couple of weeks, I normally play 3 to 4 times a week at House of Pickleball. So shout out to House of Pickleball, a great indoor facility here for me locally. But I've also been playing outside a good bit more. So my usual foursome is my 21-year-old daughter, my 27-year-old son, and my my young 30-something nephew. So the 4 of us, we're a squad. We go out and we play quite frequently in a couple of the parks here nearby. And so I've actually been getting some 2-a-days. I've been playing so much pickleball lately that I actually had to lay off the gym. I typically work out 3 to 4 days a week, strength training in a local gym here. And I was just exhausted. I need to take a day off just because I've been playing so much pickleball. But I want to start this episode by telling you a quick story. So my nephew, I want to say he's like 32 or 33 years old. So a young dude, tall. I think he's like 6'4". So I'm 6'2". So I don't meet a whole lot of pickleball players that are taller than me. My man is definitely a tall, thin, lean, athletic dude, and he's out. He's on injured reserve. He did something playing pickleball here last week to his back. He woke up the next day and he was saying, hey man, I think it might be my sciatica. I got something in my low back here. It's shooting through my hip and kind of down my leg. And it only got worse. I mean, he actually couldn't go to work 2 days later because he was in such back pain. So I tell you this story as a preface to this episode to let you know that almost anybody can get injured on a pickleball court. But what I want to do today is give you folks some good actionable tips on what we can do to reduce our risk of injury while we're playing pickleball. Now, actually, before my nephew getting hurt, I was actually planning on making this episode all about strength programming specific for pickleball athletes. But then my nephew got hurt, and at about the same time last week, I got an episode of the Dink newsletter. Side note, if you don't get the Dink newsletter, you should. If you just Google the Dink pickleball, it'll come up and you'll find a way to subscribe to that newsletter. But great for tips, industry news, just anybody who's obsessed and passionate about pickleball, you should probably be getting that newsletter. But one of the newsletters that came last week had this stat that said that we spent over $350 million last year treating pickleball injuries. And that article went on to say that 90% of those injuries are happening to those of us over 50. Now, let's back up a little bit and talk about why are we getting these injuries in pickleball. So first things first, there is nothing inherently dangerous about pickleball. And let me just repeat that, right? Because I think that if you get certainly into the mass media, there's all these horror stories. People are getting hurt in droves playing pickleball, especially for those of us over 50 or senior citizens. And again, there is nothing inherently dangerous about pickleball. But here's what I strongly suspect is happening in the sport and why so many of us over 50 are in fact getting hurt playing pickleball. The barrier to entry to play pickleball is ridiculously low. You need a paddle and you need a court. You need a place to play. That's really it. But here's the deal. It is ridiculously easy and it's ridiculously fun. But those of us over 50 who have been primarily sedentary, we have sedentary jobs, we don't have an athletic background. I know a lot of us come into pickleball from other racket sports, racquetball and tennis primarily. That certainly was not the case for me. It's not the case for a lot of us, especially those of us over 50. But we may not have a racket or paddle background, and we come into the sport, we find that it's so much fun, and all of a sudden, for the first time, perhaps in decades, we find ourselves moving quickly, explosively, laterally. We find ourselves twisting, lunging, turning, stop and go. And that's a perfect recipe for injury. It just is. Those of us that live rather sedentary lifestyles to all of a sudden move into these explosive movements in these planes of motion that we're not familiar with, that just sets us up for injury. We lack the strength and mobility for explosive athletic movement. Now, let's talk about that for just a second before we go on and talk about what are the common injuries and what we can do to prevent them. Why is it that we lack the strength and the mobility and the flexibility to play this game and not get hurt? Of course, I just gave you one of the reasons. That's coming from that sedentary lifestyle into this more explosive athletic play. But another reason that we hear, especially from popular media, is because we're older. Now, I want to say that yes, as we age, we become disadvantaged when it comes to high-level athletic play, or even athletic play, period. But that's a very small reason of why we're getting hurt. Look, age is undefeated. I'm not going to argue that, but aging is out of our control. So there is a small percentage of risk that goes up as we age. But the large portion of risk for injury while playing pickleball as we age has nothing to do with the fact that we're aging and everything to do with how we take steps to make ourselves injury proof. In other words, what are we doing to increase our mobility, our flexibility, our overall strength so that we don't get hurt in this game? Okay, so I just want to bring that to your attention because you're probably going to read in mass media news accounts that people are getting hurt because they're getting older. Not necessarily true. We're getting hurt because we're not preparing ourselves adequately before play. Is that fair? All right, so how are we getting hurt? What's happening here on the court? So the most common pickleball injuries for any age, but specifically for those of us over 50 are going to be things like strains, sprains, and occasionally fractures. And of course, there are more serious injuries that are occurring out there. Those are more the exception than the rule. The vast majority of injuries are coming from, again, the sprains, strains, and fractures. We do have some people are going to emergency rooms for broken bones, contusions, other things. But really, it's our joints that are susceptible to injury. So think about the ankle, the knee, the shoulders, the elbows. These are really, really common. And we'll go ahead and throw in there back, specifically kind of low back pain. These are all common injuries that could happen on a pickleball court. And look, again, some of that is attributable to age-related wear and tear, but that's a small fraction. Most of it is due to lack of preparation, overuse, or some improper movement mechanics. And there's good news in that because we have control over lack of preparation, overuse injuries, and improper movement and mechanics, and lack of mobility and flexibility. Those are all things within your control that you can start changing today to become a more injury-proof player. So let's talk about some injury prevention strategies. I got a couple of things for you here. And first up is strength training. Strength training is your first line of defense. Now, we did an episode, I think it was episode 2, where we talked about the foundations of strength training. If you haven't listened to that, strongly advise you go back, check that out. We talk about why strength training is important for pickleball athletes. And in that episode, we certainly discuss one of the benefits of strength training being making you more injury resistant. So muscle is absolutely critical for protecting and supporting your joints. Having some lean muscle mass on you improves your movement control, and it absolutely will reduce your risk of injury. And when I say strength training, again, what I'm talking about is classic strength training, i.e. lifting weights, going to a gym, or perhaps working out at home, but it's some sort of resistance training. And typically this is done with barbells and dumbbells, maybe kettlebells, but it could be body weight, it could be bands, there are other ways. But we are working on becoming stronger overall. Of course, we want to target our lower body. So things like squats and lunges for knee stability, for ankle mobility. We want to make sure that we are focusing core exercises to help protect that lower back. So a strong core means you have a much lower risk of injury to having that back injury, or those of you that are just kind of dealing with low-grade chronic back pain. Strengthening your core is one of the best things you can do to reduce that or eliminate that. And what you really want in your strength training program is consistency and this gradual progression. So we talked in episode 2, we talked about progressive overload, this idea that every time you do an exercise, you either add a rep or a little bit more resistance to that in order to send a signal to your body to actually get stronger. So the number one thing you can do to make yourself an injury-proof machine out there on the pickleball court is to incorporate some sort of strength training, some age-appropriate pickleball-specific training. Now, in my next episode coming up here, we're going to talk all about strength training programming specific for pickleball athletes. And just to give you a quick snapshot of what we're going to talk about, a framework is going to look like a 3-phased approach. That first phase, we're going to concentrate on full body strength and mobility. So that'll be our focus in that first phase. And look, depending on where you are, that first phase could be 4 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, it could be 12 weeks. And then we're going to move into phase 2, and that's where we're really going to focus on dynamic athleticism. And that's what you might expect from a training program that focuses on pickleball athletes. Hey, I want to move explosively. I want to be able to move laterally. I want to be able to rotate. But without that foundation of strength and mobility first, you're setting yourself up for injury by moving straight into a phase where you're just really working on explosive movement. So we have that dynamic athleticism as our second phase, and then we'll move into a third phase typically, and that's going to really focus on muscular endurance and coordination. So we're really trying to tie that strength, mobility, and dynamic athleticism together, give you a little bit of endurance in that as well. I know a lot of you are playing pickleball in 2-3 blocks. Some of you are going off and doing tournaments, things like that. So that kind of a program is what you're looking for, that phased program when it comes to increasing your overall strength. The number 2 thing you can do to make yourself an injury-proof machine out there on the pickleball court is to improve your mobility and flexibility. Look, here's a mantra for you. Stay loose, stay safe. In other words, tight muscles make you injury-prone, and loose, supple muscles and joints make you injury-proof. So it is really important for those of us over 50 who want to increase our level of play in pickleball, and we want to do so in a manner that keeps us playing for as long as possible without time off the court because we're injured. We really want to work on mobility in our joints. So again, that's going to be ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders are the big ones. And this is where I like a regular mobility and flexibility routine. And I think that where most of us as pickleballers over 50 are really missing the mark here is improper warm-ups. Look, I play at a couple local parks. I play at a beautiful indoor pickleball facility. Shout out to House of Pickleball in Leland, North Carolina. But you know what I never see? I won't say never. You know what I rarely see? People warming up. And look, when I play outdoors, it just so happens the times I play, I suppose, and the parks I go to, there's a lot of young people playing pickleball when I go play outdoors. And I don't see any of them warm up ever. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do a proper warm up before they hit the pickleball court. Now, to be fair, maybe they're doing it before they get there. I doubt it. But I'm seeing these younger people, by younger, I'm saying 40 and under, let's just say, roll into the pickleball court, start dinking, that's their warm-up, and then they go. And it's even worse when I play indoors because the times I go, they're usually on the weekdays. I play in these 2-hour blocks during the weekdays. So I'm mostly playing retired senior citizens are primarily the folks that are showing up for this daytime play. And these folks, I don't want to call anybody out, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of warm-ups there. Now, look, I am a big fan of a 2-phased warm-up before every play. Here's what I personally do. And if you guys are interested, I will put a link here in the show notes to a couple of YouTube videos that I've done showing you exactly what these warm-ups are. But before I ever leave the house to go play, whether I'm playing outdoors or indoors, I do a a very specific sequence that's designed to wake up and activate the spine and the core. So these are going to be movements like cat-cows. I have a variation of a bird dog. It's called a bird dog knee to elbow. I have a variation of a world's greatest stretch that I do. I do a little bit of cobra pose and child pose. And I'll do that at home it takes 5 minutes before I ever head out to play. So the outdoor courts for me are 15 minutes away, and the indoor facility where I play it's about 15 minutes away as well. So I'll do that warm up. I do that same exact warm up before I do my gym workout as well. But I love that warm up specifically for those of us over 50, specifically if you're somebody who has maybe a sedentary job or you're a retiree and you're not in the habit of moving all day. But this gets that spine to wake up. It gets those core muscles to activate. And we want that before we start to play. Now, once I get to the court, I do a dynamic warm-up. And this is going to be exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be some butt kicks, some high knees, some monster walks, some karaoke. And if you're not familiar with what those are, again, check out the YouTube video. I'll throw the link below in the show notes. But it takes me less than 5 minutes to warm up. It gets my heart rate up a little bit. It gets my muscles activated. And so when I walk onto the court to start my dink warm-up, my skill warm-up, my heart rate's already elevated slightly, and my body's moved dynamically and explosively a little bit before the first serve ever takes place. So there you go. That's what I personally do. I strongly recommend that you either copy my warm-up or do a version of it that suits you best. But don't just get out of the car, walk to the court, dink around for a couple minutes, maybe get a couple of shoulder swings and say, okay, I'm good to go. You're not good to go. You're putting yourself at unnecessary risk for injury. So I just would strongly encourage all of you to incorporate some sort of a warm-up before you start playing pickleball every single time. And look, I know it might be awkward. I do, believe it or not, I get some looks when I'm over there doing my high knees and my butt kicks and I'm doing karaoke side to side. I get some weird looks, but I want you guys to help me normalize warming up before we go play pickleball. In almost every sport, there is warm up before we practice the sport. Pickleball shouldn't be any different. And the other thing I'll say before we move on from the topic of mobility and flexibility is this. If you have some known mobility issues, if you've got tight hips, you've got maybe some creaky knees, if you can't squat to full depth because you've got some ankle mobility issues, maybe you got some shoulder mobility issues, I would strongly advise that you work on mobility just for 10 minutes every day. Make that part of your daily practice, that you work on mobility of those joints, make you a better player, and it'll make you a more injury resistant player as well. Okay, so my first tip was get strong, people. Get some sort of age-appropriate, sport-specific programming. Number 2 tip is, come on, let's get mobile, let's stay mobile, and let's never, ever, ever skip our warm-ups, and maybe even throw in there a daily mobility practice for those joints that maybe are less cooperative for you. My number 3 tip is this: eat for injury prevention and recovery. You want to fuel yourself to stay strong and to heal faster. So nutrition plays a critical role in keeping muscles and joints healthy. And if you haven't listened to episode 3, make sure you go back and listen to that, where I talk about the framework for healthy nutrition for pickleball athletes. Definitely go back and listen to that if you haven't already. But I have 2 things here for you when it comes to eating for injury prevention specifically. And first is, and I talked a lot about this in my last podcast episode, is you want to eat a high protein diet. Protein is critical for muscle repair and for maintenance. It helps keep your tendons and your joints healthy. So if you'll remember, we are aiming for 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight every single day. That catches a lot of us by surprise. That's a lot of protein, but you want to eat that high protein diet in order to A, help build lean muscle, and B, in order to have those nice healthy joints that are more injury proof. And keep in mind, the stronger you are, the more injury proof you are. And protein is certainly a critical element in you building lean muscle mass. The next thing I want to talk about when it comes to nutrition, specifically for injury prevention, is make sure you're getting plenty of anti-inflammatory foods like omega-3 fatty acids into your diet. So we're going to find these typically in our healthy fat sources, things like salmon, your avocados, your extra virgin olive oil, certainly the dark leafy greens, your berries. We want to be eating these nice, healthy fat and antioxidant-rich whole food sources. And these are both areas where I like some supplementation. So again, for protein, if you get a high quality protein powder, your best bang for your buck when it comes to a full amino acid profile is going to be whey protein. If you don't tolerate whey, I've got a couple other recommendations for you. You can go back and listen to that in the last podcast episode. And a high quality omega-3 fatty acid, like a fish oil supplement. I really like the ones from Thorne. That's Thorne. Really a high quality, reputable supplement company. That's one that I personally use. But another thing, for those of you that don't mind the taste of sardines, one of the best, healthiest practices you can do for boosting up your omega-3 fatty acids, eat a tin of sardines every day. You will become superhuman when it comes to joint health, joint strength, if that's your jam. So there you go. High protein, high omega-3 fatty acids, really, really key to the nutrition side of injury prevention. And look, these are things that you can do today to start elevating your pickleball game and making you more injury proof. You can start to put some of these nutrition strategies in place today and start reaping those benefits. Certainly you should already be doing some type of strength training, but if you're not, you can start that today. Now, the benefits that you're going to get for injury prevention from a good professionally designed strength training program are going to take a little longer. You'll start reaping those benefits a few weeks and certainly gradually over months in time. You'll get more and more of those benefits, but those nutritional benefits will happen right away. Okay, so we've talked about strength training. We've talked about the importance of mobility and the criticality of warming up. We talked about the importance of nutrition for injury prevention. I want to finish with this. I want to talk about the importance of rest and recovery. Remember at the beginning, I've been telling you, I was like, hey, y'all have been playing so much pickleball. And I'm still a relative newbie when it comes to pickleball. So I've still got all of those newbie gains out in front of me. I'm so excited. I'm so passionate. But as a personal trainer and nutrition coach, I also know that I need to be careful that I'm not running into an overuse injury. So like I said, I've been playing 2-a-days. I'll go to the House of Pickleball and play with my pickleball folks in the middle of the day. And then at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, I'll go with my gang and my family and we'll head out to the pickleballs and we'll go play for another couple of hours. And look, I'm having fun and I'm trying to stay within my limits, but I'm 100% redlining when I do that because I told you I had to actually skip a day at the gym, and I'm a personal trainer. I'm a gym junkie. I love going to the gym. It's my happy place. I actually had to take a day off because I felt I was right on the line of overtraining. Probably what I should have done was peeled 1 or 2 of those pickleball sessions back as well. So what I want to tell you, and of course, my nephew who's been playing a good bit, young man, and he's very zealous, fairly new to the game, ended up, I don't know, we don't know how he hurt himself, but ended up injuring himself playing pickleball. And all of this has to do with overreaching, overtraining, overuse. And I want you to be careful, especially if you're newer to the sport, that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're just overdoing things. And look, when I say overdoing things, I mean your full physical movement load throughout any given week. So if you're a runner, or if you play other racket sports, or if you play any other sport, if you're just adding strength training, you need to realize that you have to be able to recover from all of these things. And the other thing I want to talk about when it comes to recovery specifically is know this: when you are fatigued, that's fatigue from overuse, overplay, overworking out, whatever that is, you are more injury susceptible. So when the body is run down, worn down, tired, you are more susceptible for injury. And I just want to give a shout out to one of my favorite healthy aging tips, and that is sleep. Getting quality sleep every night of the week. So that means for those of us over 50, a minimum of 7 hours of good quality sleep regularly is one of the best things you can do for your overall health and wellness, and absolutely is critical to keeping you injury proof. And again, stepping out onto the court without the things we talked about and in a sleep deprived state is a recipe for you getting hurt. So I just wanted to give a shout out that sleep is actually your healthy body miracle medicine. It's a miracle pill. It is like the tide in the harbor that raises all of the boats. Everything gets better when you get that healthy sleep and you make that a priority in your life. So there you go, folks. I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking to you about things you can start doing today to make yourself injury resistant, to make yourself a better player, and to make sure you have longevity in the sport that we all love so much. So just to recap, we talked about getting strong. We talked about improving mobility and never ever skipping warm-ups. We talked about nutrition, and we talked about proper recovery and being careful not to overdo it, that rest and recovery piece. Pickleball is fun. Pickleball is a blast. So if you're listening to a pickleball podcast called the PickleFit Podcast that nerds out on how to get strong, healthy, and stay injury-free, chances are you're obsessed. You're passionate about this. But know that pickleball is physically demanding, deceptively so, especially as we start to level up, and especially for those of us over 50. And taking these simple preventative measures will help keep you on the court longer. So my call to action for you today is to take some of these simple actions and start incorporating them into your weekly routines. If you're not already working on improving your overall strength and mobility, definitely do that. If you're not eating that high protein, nutrient dense, high antioxidant, high anti-inflammatory diet, absolutely make sure you incorporate a couple of those tips and make sure you are not overdoing things and getting plenty of healthy sleep. So that's all I've got for you this week. Until next time, stay strong. Okay, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of the PickleFit Podcast. I hope you're feeling fired up to hit the court stronger and smarter and more injury-proof. If you've enjoyed the show, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow pickleballers. Let's grow this community of fit, fierce, and injury-free players. Until next time, stay strong, stay mobile, and keep crushing it out there. I'll see you on the court.